Stop me if you heard this one before. Adam Schefter tweets out misinformation and gets it wrong yet again. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jaguar 9, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about, well, this man right here, Calvin Ridley, the Jaguars wide receiver, the former Falcon. You remember him, he was a very good player with Atlanta, 1,000-yard receiver, first-round pick, got suspended for betting on games, then he got traded to Jacksonville, and now he is a free agent after a 1,000-yard season in Duval, and Adam Schefter tweeting out blatant misinformation about the status of Calvin Ridley's contract. So how the trade worked was like this. The Jaguars made this trade back in October of 2022 while Ridley was suspended. The terms of the trade said that if Calvin Ridley was not on the roster by the time that the 2024 league year began, that the Jaguars would owe a third-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons. However, if the Jaguars re-signed Calvin Ridley before the start of the 2024 league year, then they would owe a second-round pick. So they either owe a second-round pick or a third-round pick, depending on Calvin Ridley's roster status. He had 1,000 yards in Jacksonville. I thought he played solid. I thought he was a solid B-level receiver this year. Now, we can debate whether the Jags should re-sign him. Personally, I think they should, especially because you look at Trent Baalke's history at drafting wide receivers. It's not pretty in the slightest bit. You can look at the draft history. It's absolutely atrocious. He has not drafted one good receiver. The best one he's drafted was Parker Washington. Honestly, the best one he's drafted is Parker Washington. That says a lot. And he's been a GM for a long, long time between San Francisco and Jacksonville. The fact that Parker Washington is your best wideout says a lot. Having said that, though, Adam Schefter decided to tweet out Calvin Ridley's contract status, and he got it all wrong. He got it all wrong. He refuses to edit the tweet, so he's left a blatant misinformation on the tweet yet again. Said Adam Schefter, should wide receiver Calvin Ridley re-sign with Jacksonville, the Jaguars would owe a second-round pick to Atlanta, number 48 overall, as part of the conditions from their trade last year. The Falcons currently have a third-round pick, number 79 overall, via Jacksonville. That is not true, folks. That is not even the slightest bit true. Adam Schefter phrased that tweet as if Calvin Ridley, if he re-signs with Jacksonville, the Jaguars automatically owe a second-round pick. No, it has to be before the league year starts. There's a major difference. If Calvin Ridley is on the Jaguars next season, but he re-signs at 4:01 p.m. Eastern when the league year starts, the Jaguars only owe a third-round pick. It's only if he re-signs before that they owe a second-round pick. It is a complete misconstruction of the trade, and it's a trade that we've known about for about 2 years at this point. And even your own reporters knew about it. Jeremy Fowler posted this article on ESPN.com, and look at this. Per terms of the 2022 trade with Atlanta to acquire Ridley, Jacksonville's third-round pick due to Atlanta turns into a second-round pick if Jacksonville extends Ridley's contract. That's why Jacksonville will need to wait until after the new league year begins to avoid giving up a second, because at that point, any deal would be a free agency signing and not an extension. See, Jeremy Fowler got it right. He works for your company. How come you couldn't get it right? How come you had to put out that if he re-signs with Jacksonville, no matter what, that they give up a second-round pick when that is not true in the slightest bit? The phrasing matters. Words matter. And I am not the only person to point out that this tweet is factually incorrect, and Adam Schefter is just tweeting misinformation, having no problem with it. There are a bunch of other people that have called Schefter out on this, and he still has left the tweet up. We have this one guy, Duval Doom. He says, not if it's after free agency starts. Why is this so difficult for everyone? Your guess is as good as mine, Duval Doom. It's really not difficult for everyone. It's just difficult for Adam Schefter. You even had a Titans reporter saying the same thing. This is misleading. The Falcons will only receive the Jaguars' second rounder if Jacksonville signs him before 4 p.m. on March 13th, which they have absolutely no incentive to do. It's going to be a third. So it's not just Jaguars fans and reporters knowing the situation and the terms of the trade. It's a Titans reporter as well. It's a lot of reporters. It's basically every reporter that does its job, because we've known the details of this trade for, I don't know, the past 18 months. And then another Jaguars anchor saying the same thing, saying on the Schefter tweet, that is only if they re-sign him before the start of free agency. If the Jags sign him once the new league year and free agency starts, it will only be a third still. So, Adam Schefter, you've been called out by multiple people at this point. The tweet is still up. At this point, you are peddling misinformation for no reason whatsoever other than you want to get engagement. And that is shameful. That is absolutely shameful. Now, you might be saying, look, maybe he just couldn't fit it all in the tweet because it's 280 characters. And at that point, you're going over the limit. Well, that doesn't work for a few reasons. Number one, he has Twitter Blue. He has Twitter Premium, whatever you want to call it. So he can go over the limit. No problem. Number two, the tweet isn't even 280 characters. I can show you because I don't have Twitter Blue. I don't pay for Twitter. So I'm going to show you how you can rephrase that tweet, make it so that it is factually accurate and gets everything across that you need to without changing any real words whatsoever. Here's all I did. Should wide receiver Calvin Ridley re-sign with Jacksonville before the league year, the Jaguars would owe a second-round pick to Atlanta, number 48 overall, as part of the conditions from their trade last year. The Falcons currently have a third-round pick, number 79 overall, via Jacksonville. All I had to do was add the phrase before the league year. That's it. I didn't have to change anything. I just had to add 4 words. And those 4 words make a massive difference. But based on what Schefter tweeted, it makes it seem like if Calvin Ridley re-signs in Jacksonville, if he is wearing number 0 for the Jaguars next year, that Atlanta gets a second-round pick. And that's not true. They only get the second-round pick if and only if he re-signs before the league year starts. There is a major, major difference with that. And Adam Schefter has left the tweet up. He is blatantly wrong. Yet again, I've done quite a few videos on Schefter getting stuff horribly wrong with his tweets and just refusing to edit them or double down on it. He thought that the Baltimore Ravens and the Baltimore Colts were the same exact franchise. I did a video on that. Go check that out in the upper right corner or the link in the description if you have not already. I did a video that got community noted. He actually got community noted by Twitter about how this was the first opening night Friday game of all time when the Eagles are playing in Brazil. And that's not true in the slightest bit. It happened in 1970 when the St. Louis Cardinals played the Los Angeles Rams. Go check that video out if you have not already. I will leave a link in the description and in the upper right corner. And now there's this. It seems like every single week with this guy, he's tweeting out blatantly wrong stuff, even though he's a journalist and his job is supposed to be to get the facts right. But I guess it doesn't matter because everyone knows the trade conditions. If you're a Jaguars fan, if you're a Jaguars supporter, you've known this for the past 18 months at this point. But Adam Schefter, apparently he's just finding this out for the first time. Shows how much he truly knows about the NFL when he's not breaking news. So, what are your thoughts on Adam Schefter? What are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley? Do you think the Jaguars should re-sign Ridley? Where do you think he ends up next year? And what are your thoughts on Adam Schefter's tweet? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.